like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
All right, so you sent in this article about this crazy game between the Spurs and the Nuggets. And I got to say, I'm pretty pumped to kind of go over this one with you. You know it. It wasn't just any game. This was like a clash of the Titans. We've got Victor Wembanyama, that young gun, already in his second year, making a name for himself, going up against the reigning MVP, Nikola Jokic.
It's an interesting matchup for sure. And to add even more to that, this game took place in Denver. So the Spurs had to deal with that high altitude, the thin air in Denver.
Right. So not only are they facing, a powerhouse team led by Jokic, but they're battling the thin air too. Like that had to have impacted their game, right?
Absolutely. Altitude can really affect players, their stamina, their shooting. It's definitely something that visiting teams always have to adjust to when they play in Denver.
So tell me, how did Wembanyama handle all that? I mean, the article even mentions that he was 5th in the MVP rankings at this point, so the expectations were high.
Well, he did not disappoint. He put up 35 points, 18 rebounds, 2 blocks, 4 assists, all while shooting 14 for 21 from the field. He wasn't just playing well, he was dominating.
Wow. Those are some serious numbers. But didn't Jokic also have a pretty incredible game?
Oh, absolutely. Jokic is a beast. 41 points, 18 rebounds himself, and he almost had a triple-double with 9 assists.
Okay, so both players putting up these monster stats. What tipped the scales in favor of the Spurs? Was there like a specific moment or play that kind of stands out to you?
Yeah, there were a few key things. First, Jokic, he's usually a really good three-point shooter, but he had a bit of an off night in this game, especially in the first half.
Do you think Wembanyama's defense had anything to do with that? I mean, this guy's a defensive giant.
It's certainly possible. Wembanyama's presence in the paint can be really intimidating, and he definitely disrupted some of Jokic's usual rhythm.
Yeah, that's what I love about this new generation of players. They're not just offensively gifted, they bring that defensive intensity too. But the article mentions Wembanyama got into foul trouble late in the game. Didn't that almost cost the Spurs the win?
Yeah.
And can you also explain what foul trouble even means for our listeners who might not be familiar with the rules?
Sure. In basketball, if a player gets a certain number of fouls, they risk being taken out of the game. So Wembanyama having those fouls against him meant he had to play more cautiously. And you're right, it almost did cost them the game. The Spurs had a 12-point lead, but the Nuggets, fueled by Jokic, made this furious comeback.
Oh, man. Talk about a nail-biter. I can only imagine how tense those final minutes were.
Oh, it was edge-of-your-seat stuff. With just 17 seconds left on the clock, the Spurs had a turnover, giving the Nuggets and Jokic a chance to tie, or even win the game.
So what happened? Don't leave me hanging.
Well, just when it looked like the Nuggets might pull it off, Wembanyama came up with this clutch steal. He basically snatched the ball right out of Jokic's hands, preventing a potential game-winning shot.
And securing the victory for the Spurs.
Wow. That is incredible, to be in foul trouble with the game on the line and to still make that kind of game-saving play. That shows some serious mental toughness and composure.
Absolutely. It was a remarkable display of athleticism and poise from Wembanyama. It really demonstrated his ability to rise to the occasion.
It's almost like a, passing of the torch moment. This young star kind of stealing the show from the reigning MVP.
There's definitely a sense of that, but I think it's important to remember that this is just one game. Both of these players are incredibly talented and still have so much potential to fulfill.
Right. It's way too early to crown Wembanyama the next king of the NBA.
Yeah.
But this game certainly has everyone talking. It was a classic showdown, full of drama, and just incredible individual performances. And the article mentions that there's a rematch scheduled soon, this time in San Antonio. So that's going to be a must-watch game for sure.
A rematch in San Antonio. Now, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
No altitude advantage for the Nuggets this time. Can't wait to see how that plays out.
It adds another layer of excitement to this budding rivalry. We're seeing two of the league's best players, both with their eyes on the MVP prize, going head-to-head. It's going to be fascinating to see how they adjust their strategies for the rematch.
Speaking of strategy, I'm curious about the coaches. The article focuses on Wembanyama and Jokic, and rightfully so, but what about Greg Popovich and whoever's coaching the Nuggets now? Like, what role did their coaching decisions play in how this game unfolded?
That's a fantastic point. We often get so caught up in the star power of players. But the coaches are the masterminds behind the scenes, making these crucial decisions. That can really swing the momentum of a game.
Exactly. Their choice of substitutions, timeouts, and especially the plays they call in those crucial final seconds. It all adds up.
It's like a chess match between them. each one trying to anticipate and counter the other's moves.
So while we're marveling at the incredible talent of players like Wembanyama and Jokic, let's not forget about the strategic brilliance of the coaches. They might not be grabbing the headlines, but they're playing a vital role in shaping the narrative of this rivalry and the NBA as a whole.
It's something to keep in mind as you watch future games. Look beyond the highlight reels and try to spot the coaching decisions that might be influencing the outcome. It adds a whole new level of appreciation for the complexity and strategy of basketball.
Okay, so we've got these two incredible players, a nail-biting game, a rematch looming on the horizon, and this strategic battle between the coaches. Where do we even go from here? This is already so much to unpack.
Well, let's dive deeper into the individual performances of Wembanyama and Jokic. What specific aspects of their game stood out in this matchup? How did they adapt to each other's strengths and weaknesses? And what can their performances in this game tell us about their potential for the rest of the season and beyond? There's still so much more to explore.
Okay, so let's dig into those individual performances then. You mentioned Wembanyama was dominant, but what specifically impressed you about his game?
You know, it's really fascinating how he impacted the game on both ends of the court. Offensively, he was scoring from everywhere, inside, mid-range, even hitting a few threes. He was making smart passes, finding his teammates for open shots. But what really stood out to me was his defensive presence.
He was everywhere, blocking shots, disrupting passes, making Jokic work for every single basket.
Exactly. His length and agility make him a defensive nightmare for opponents. And remember, he was doing all of this while playing cautiously because of those fouls. Imagine what he could have done if he wasn't worried about picking up another one.
Yeah, that's a scary thought for the rest of the league. But let's talk about Jokic for a second. He still managed to score 41 points, even with an off night from three-point range. So how did he adapt his game?
Well, Jokic is a master at reading the defense and adjusting his approach. When his outside shot wasn't falling, he started attacking the basket more, drawing fouls, and getting to the free throw line. He also did a great job of finding his teammates for open shots when the Spurs defense collapsed on him.
So even though Wembanyama was this force defensively, Jokic still found ways to be effective. It sounds like this matchup really pushed both players to be their best.
Absolutely, and that's what makes this rivalry so compelling. You have these two incredibly talented players, each with a unique skill set, pushing each other to elevate their game.
You know, it reminds me of those classic rivalries, like Magic and Bird, or Kobe and Shaq. Those matchups always brought out the best in both players.
Right, and those rivalries, they help shape the NBA. And I think we might be witnessing the beginning of something similar with Wembanyama and Jokic.
Okay, so we've got these two superstars going head-to-head. What does this mean for the MVP race? I mean, Wembanyama is only in his second year, and he's already being mentioned as a potential MVP candidate. Is this a sign of things to come?
I mean, it's definitely a statement game. For Wembanyama, he showed the league that he can compete at the highest level and lead his team to victory against the very best. And if he keeps playing like this, he'll be a serious contender for the MVP award, no doubt. But we can't forget about Jokic. He's a two-time MVP for a reason. He's incredibly consistent, and he always finds ways to impact the game.
Right. It's too early to write Jokic off. This might just fuel his competitive fire even more.
Exactly, and that's what makes this rivalry so exciting. We have no idea how it's going to unfold. Will Wembanyama continue his meteoric rise and claim the MVP trophy? Or will Jokic reassert his dominance and prove that he's still the king of the NBA?
And let's not forget about the teams. This isn't just about individual accolades, about two teams vying for a championship. The Spurs have this young, exciting team built around Wembanyama, and the Nuggets, even though they lost this game, are still a formidable force with Jokic at the helm.
Right. And the upcoming rematch in San Antonio adds another layer of intrigue. How will the Nuggets adjust to playing on the Spurs' home court? Will the absence of the altitude advantage affect their performance?
And how will the Spurs respond to the pressure of being the favorites in the rematch? It's going to be fascinating to see how these two teams evolve and adapt throughout the season.
You know this deep dive. It's taken us from a single game recap to a discussion about the future of the NBA. It's amazing how one article can spark so many questions and insights.
It really shows the power of sports journalism.
Yeah.
And the passion that fans have for the game.
Absolutely. And for you listening, this is just a reminder that every game, every matchup, every performance has a story behind it. There's always more to explore and analyze. So keep digging, keep learning, and keep diving deep.
It's fun. You know, we started this whole deep dive just talking about one game, but it's really kind of opened up all these possibilities and questions about the future of these two players and the league itself.
That's the beauty of sports, right? I mean, Every game is like a microcosm of something bigger. And it's those little individual moments that build the narratives and legends, that we follow.
For sure. And for me, one of the biggest takeaways from this whole deep dive is that there's always more to the story than what we see on the surface.
Oh, I like that.
We've been focused on Wembanyama and Jokic, their stats, their incredible plays. But what about the things that we don't see? The hours of practice, film study, mental preparation, all that stuff that goes into each game.
That's so important. We always see the highlight reels, the flashy dunks, the game-winning shots, but we don't always think about the grind, the dedication, all those unseen sacrifices that lead to those moments.
Yeah, it's like an iceberg, right? The game itself is just the tip.
Yeah.
And underneath, there's this massive foundation of hard work and determination.
And that goes for everyone, not just the players, the coaches, trainers, support staff. They all play a role in creating those moments that we see on the court.
So as we keep following Wembanyama and Jokic, and as we watch the NBA season unfold, let's remember to appreciate not just the results, but the whole process.
Yeah. Let's celebrate the dedication, the resilience, the behind-the-scenes efforts that make all these incredible performances possible.
Because that's where the true heart of the game is.
Well, this has been a fantastic deep dive. We unpacked a thrilling game, explored all the nuances of these two incredible players, and even delved into the unseen world behind the scenes.
And we've left you with plenty to think about. As the season continues, who will be the dominant force in this rivalry? How will the coaches change their strategies? And most importantly, will you be paying attention to those hidden stories, the unsung heroes, the dedication that fuels every moment of NBA action?
Keep those questions in mind, keep exploring, and keep diving deep. Until next time.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have the ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till